So I was going through your Twitter and I was reading one of your posts where you were bringing up nudges, where you could kind of like nudge someone to do something. And what was the other one? Was it sludges?
Sludge, yeah, sludge.
Okay, can you tell me the difference between those two? And then I want to hear if that relates to any of your work today or maybe what you're seeing with that. But first, definitions.
Okay, so nudge is a small cue or a little push that you can give your customers to get them to take action. So I think nudge really applies when people are switching wireless. Often it's used in government to get people to do things that are beneficial for them, but they're not doing. A lot of behavioral economists will look at ways to like get people to walk more, take the stairs, for example. And so what are nudges and you could do to like slight things you could put in someone's environment to get them to make a better choice or a healthier choice, smarter choice, what have you. That definitely plays a role every day in how we think about wireless, but pushing someone along to do something they know them to do is all about removing friction. So we're trying to make it feel as easy as possible, and activation support was definitely one of those things. Mm-hmm. Sludge is something where you actually add friction to like a less valued experience. So the example I gave was, let's say everyone's taking the elevator. It's healthier if they take the stairs. How do you encourage stair taking? Well, what they did is they added a delay on the elevator door closing. They added like 26 seconds to the door's close time. So people are sitting there for 15 more seconds, like this is taking forever. I'm just going to take the stairs. And it leads to a huge increase in taking the stairs. I think that there is a strong application of this to business in general, and especially a high considered purchase like selling wireless.
Or do you think this could be applicable to e-commerce brands? Because I was trying to think like, when is a time I could make something slightly more difficult for a customer in a way that gets them going in a better direction, but you don't lose them? Or do you think it's more of maybe like a brick and mortar type thing or solving solutions in the real world that maybe can't be monetized?
Definitely the very latter, with things that can't be monetized. And then for the business, I think it's about finding ways. So one example might be for Mint Mobile, we sell two different types of SIM cards. So we fulfill service via either a physical SIM card that we mail to you or an eSIM, which is all online. So you could buy a wireless service and activate today because we send you a QR code and then it does some settings on the phone and you can start using the service. Well, we obviously prefer eSIM, and our customers do too because it's instant and we don't have to pay anything for shipping and there's no fulfillment costs. But it's also a newer technology. So even people who might be familiar with SIM cards, they get a little sketched out about eSIM, thinking like, is that going to take like my whole phone, et cetera. So sludge would be ways that we might add friction to the physical fulfillment process to drive more people to use.
There you go. You got an example. Of course, you're like, I'm not so sure. Yeah, it comes up right on the slot. I love that. Okay. It was super interesting reading a lot of your psychology posts that you had on Twitter talking about different biases and stuff. How did you get interested in this world?
I'm going to go way back for a second, because the way I got interested in marketing in general is when my now wife was a master's student in anthropology, and I went to an anthropology conference with her. But they were talking about all the studies that they were doing about how people behave. There was evolutionary anthropology. So it's about like the roots of human behavior. And how do you know that certain types of behavior are replicated across an entire population of people? And that's where statistics comes in, and also economics. And then I started to see the value of that and changing people's behavior in the real world, either for good or for profit, or both. And it seems to me like all marketing fundamentally comes down to influence and persuasion, and have to understand how people operate, how they make decisions, and why they make decisions to really do a good job of that. And so cognitive biases and the flawed rationale that people use to make decisions is something that everyone should be aware of so they can guard against it on their own. But it's also something that marketers should know about so that we can find ways to help our customers avoid making those flawed decisions with flawed reasoning on their own.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you now about these. I want to hear about the flawed rationales that they have, because I personally do not know them, and I don't know if everyone else does. So maybe we can go off in that direction now, and then we can turn back.
Yeah, I just read something about this morning, so it's top of mind. It's called Gambler's Fallacy, where you might expect future performance to be based on past performance, even in situations where things are completely random. So like roulette, every spin of the wheel isn't like if you get 5 blacks in a row on roulette and you have the black, red, and green, if there's 5 blacks in a row, the next spin is not more likely to be red. Although lots of people think it's likely to be red because we've had so many blacks, it's bound to be red, but it's still 50-50-ish chance on the very next spin. Another one that applies a lot more to selling things is cognitive or voice overload. If you have too many things in front of you, too many options, it becomes way harder to pick one. Whereas if you just have a few options, fewer than 5, then it's easier to pick one. And there's interesting ramifications for that too, where even if people make a choice under choice overload conditions, they're less likely to be satisfied with it. And I think you see that in restaurants all the time, where restaurants that have huge menus, not only is it harder to pick a meal, But then once you picked one, you're looking at what everyone else got, and you're always in the back of your mind a little sad at what you didn't choose. Whereas a restaurant that has 5 items on the menu, it's really easy to pick. You feel really confident about your choice because it's the best one out of a very limited set of options. And then that also comes in with selling wireless service. We technically sell 12 different plans with different data amounts and durations, but that's a lot for people to pick up on. Switching wireless is hard. There's lots of information that's in your mind. You're not really sure if it matters, if it doesn't. Generally, like very anxious, I think, when you're shopping for wireless because the ramifications of the poor decision could be huge and very time consuming. So one thing we did for a little on is we reduced the number of plans that people see right away on the site to just our most popular 3-month plans. So we took the options from 12 down to 3 to 4. And that had a huge impact on helping people pull the trigger and actually purchase a plan. Because there's not as much to think about now. Just those 4 options, pick one that's closest and you can move forward.
That's great. Okay. I like how you related that to an exact thing you did within the company just through knowing that. Tell me about the gambler's fallacy. How can I think about that? And it doesn't have to be at your current company. It can be, just within e-commerce. How can I apply that one?
So I think that one mostly applies to people who are practicing marketing because you expect that the same thing you saw previously, you expect to see it in the future. And that's not necessarily because you need to really understand the motivation, the reasons why you saw certain behavior in the past. Gambler's fallacy is probably not the right example for this, but it's in a similar vein where you're basing your future decisions on past results, even though the two are disconnected. So if you run a Facebook ad, for example, and it took off, it did super well, and then you run it again or a similar ad and it doesn't do well, you might think that the expectation was that the Facebook ad would do well, when really the reason it did well in the first place is because of some algorithm tweaks or some changes in seasonality. There's things influencing consumer decisions that unless marketers are really focused on research, it's hard for them to understand like what was an external influence and what was an influence from their actual marketing efforts. I see that happen all the time with new marketing.
Hey, thanks for watching. This segment was made possible by our friends at Salesforce Commerce Cloud. If you're looking for the #1 platform for all your commerce needs, go check out salesforce.com/commerce. And don't forget to subscribe below and tap that little bell icon so you can stay on top of all the amazing new segments and full episodes that we'll be putting out over the coming year with some of the best and most influential commerce leaders out there.